So this video is going to be a little weird. I have a couple of reviews here, but I mainly wanted to talk about what it's like looking for a new camera system to move to in the year 2021. Over the past month or two, I think I've sold pretty much everything I own, which is almost every camera that's been featured in a video so far. I do realize how weird it is to talk about how gear isn't important on a video which mainly focuses on gear. But if camera gear was fat, I've been going on the keto diet, trying to shed all those lens and 35mm pounds, trying to focus on just a few handful of cameras that I love to use to get the results I'm looking for. What the spring cleaning really means is I'm going from 20 plus cameras down to maybe somewhere between 5 or 10. That's also not to say that I haven't been spending money needlessly on other cameras that are on their way for me to review soon. While all my friends are buying houses, I'm buying more cameras, which I use to take photos of their houses. The Hasselblad 500 CM. This is probably the best larger than 645 medium format camera you can buy in terms of all around points. Yes, you can buy cameras that feel better in the hand, have a wider lens selection, produce larger negatives, but having used 6x17, 6x9, 6x7, 645, and now 6x6, this modular Swiss camera is pretty great. Now 6x6 is a bit of an acquired taste as it's very square, but with the medium format quality, you can afford to crop quite a bit. In terms of format size, this being 6x6, I'm not sure you can beat this on such a small and fairly light body. It's the size of some 645 film bodies. The prices of these have gone way up, and I'm not sure why, aside from these being so iconic and stylish. Also, to be totally transparent, I bought mine along with an extra viewfinder and 2 lenses, and sold it about a month later. The Pentax Lx. There isn't too much to be said here. The price on these seem to be going down a little, so if you want the best manual 35mm film camera Pentax ever made, you can pick one up for pretty cheap. The one I got was missing the factory grip and body covers, which is not an easy thing to track down, so I'd recommend you find a complete camera. This thing is very tough. I feel like I could use it in a game of wall ball, and it would still function afterward for a group photo. The Nikon F100. The baby brother to the Nikon F5. When you don't want to almost kill your entire team by having the rewind motor spook a group of dinosaurs in the Lost World, and don't need all the pro features that come with the F5, the F100 is there for you. The best film camera in my opinion if you're already a Nikon DSLR user who wants to try out film. It will be like using other DSLRs, just film this time. If I had to choose one film camera to take me around the world, and it couldn't be the Nikon F6 for some reason, I'd probably just choose this. Most people will see a person using this and think it's a DSLR. Until the first picture is taken, they hear the odd sound and notice there's no rear LCD. Making the mirrorless move. I'm not going to debate mirrorless versus non. There are many pros and cons to each, but I'm moving to mirrorless. Also, I will have to move to a new non-F-mount system no matter who I choose. To get some of these things out of the way, any newish camera will give you good pictures. If your photos are coming out objectively bad, it's you, not the camera. Alright, so color science. It doesn't matter. It might matter if you're comparing one brand to another, but people don't do that in real life. Also, I shoot RAW. Megapixels. More is not always better. Ideally, I want something in the 30s or 40s, but high 20s is just about perfect. Autofocus. Again, some brands are ahead of others like Sony, but no current brand has autofocus so bad that I can roll it out just based on that. Video. Don't care. All cameras seem to do video now, and I will buy something dedicated to that anyway, so it doesn't really matter to me. Battery life. Battery life. This one is pretty important. All mirrorless camera battery life stinks compared to DSLRs, but all of them are pretty good these days. No one brand is so much better that it makes a clear winner for me. Sensor size. Ideally, I would be using a medium format camera in the size of a Fuji X100V. But aside from that, I think it comes down to what you shoot. For me, I mainly do street and just random things. I shot APS-C for years and then moved to full frame. Full frame cameras are easier to get wider focal lengths and get shallower depth of field, and tend to be better in low light than more crop censored cameras. But in real world shooting, these don't make enough of a difference to me. Size. So this is a weird one for me. I used to think that anything smaller and lighter than an RZ67 Pro is fine. But the truth is that the smaller the camera is, the more likely I am to take it out somewhere which means more pictures, which means a higher chance to get good photos out of those. Non-full frame is the winner here. Who to go with? Well, we have the Nikon Z mount. Nikon has me a little worried. They have layoffs in the US, rumors about them leaving the camera market, planning camera production from Japan to Thailand. Their finances aren't looking too good. Their cameras are great, but their lens selection sucks. And I don't want to adapt all my lenses only to eventually sell them for Z mount lenses down the road when they're worth way, way less. Lens mount adapters, like using my 3.5mm headphone jack with my iPhone, or any of my flawed past relationships, you're really just trying to make it work until something better comes along. For me, Nikon, too little, too late. Sony E-mount. The idea of the A7 IV sounds perfect, but the A7R IV with 61 megapixels is overkill for me. I'm not a landscape photographer, so those large files slowing down my workflow is enough of a con to rule it out. Having said that, I loved my A7S II for video. For full frame, these bodies are small, but the lenses are huge, like the Nikons. Olympus. 1-inch sensors are fine, but the size of the camera with that sensor, I'd probably just pick a super compact Sony over the Olympus. Canon. Since Sony and Canon seem to be in a megapixel war, sensible megapixel counts are getting rare. The R5 is an amazing camera, the first true replacement to the 5D Mark II, in my opinion. Also, RF mount, we're talking about approximately 60 lenses, not amazing. I would probably go Sony before I'd go Canon, no offense to Canon users. I believe there are still more Canon cameras out in the wild than any other brand. Panasonic. Too weird, can't be bothered. The Panasonic S5 is a great alternative to the Sony A7 III, and the S1R would be a great option, but again, that L mount doesn't have a lot going for it, and then you're back into living with adapters. I know a few amazing photographers who use the Panasonic system, but more power to them. Pentax. They do have new cameras, but aside from medium format, I'll pass. Leica. I'm not in the 1% of income earners, otherwise I'd probably go Leica. Full frame and a compact rangefinder body, that's a good match. Fuji. Okay, so they've been in the mirrorless game for a while now. Only medium format and APS-C sensor sizes, so that's a little weird, but I do love their stuff. I've owned the X100S and X100F, both fantastic, and considering what I photographed, these might be the winner. I hate to say it, but with all manufacturers having so many good cameras, and after spending hours and hours comparing specs and reviews, I think you need to make your choice with your heart, and not your head. Base it off what kind of photographer you are. I guess what I'm trying to say is worry less about gear. If you don't know what sort of photographer you are yet, just get anything made in the last 10 years essentially and just get out there and shoot. If you're into landscapes and portraiture, maybe go full frame or medium format. If you do street, maybe go with something like APS-C or full frame. It's sort of hard to tell what sort of photographer you are based on gear. I know some people pull up the last years of their photographs and rank them by what camera was used and what focal length and go by that. For example, back in the day, I didn't know what I wanted to take photos of, I just wanted to take photos of things. And for that, the Canon and Nikon SLR bodies worked great. But nowadays, because of technology and options, I would opt for something a little smaller. Something a little smaller and a little lighter. You could use a Phase 1 camera to take Instagram photos of your brunch, but probably no one's going to be able to tell the difference on Instagram. It's really about what sort of tool is going to help you get out there and take the most photos and the best photos.